Simone in a nutshell. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Uniquely Me with Simone Stewart. It's a program for women, by women, about women, you name it. The woman with the S on the chest. So, today I have on set with me a very good friend of mine, Tamicia. My God, we go way, 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 way back. And I'm just so excited to hear her story, guys. In my book, Uniquely Me, which my show is based on, I talk about the aspect of being a mother. And I think if there's a job in this world that is priceless, it's one of being a mother. But it gets a little bit more challenging when those babies are to come into this world. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. This woman has had three preemie babies, and you're going to be seeing at intervals the pictures being posted of what the babies look like when they came out. But just before we jump into that aspect of it, I want to learn a little bit more about who is this woman, and I want you to learn a little bit more about her. I know her. She's a prayer warrior. She's a giant of a woman when it comes to prayer. She's my friend. Tamicia, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Simone. It's my pleasure to be here just to talk to you guys.
Yeah.
Well, this is Tamicia. I have three lovely kids.
Mhm.
As Simone said, they were all born prematurely, but before they were born, I basically was just having a nice little life going along, dreaming of having kids, dreaming of settling down and getting married, and having this. I actually wanted 7 children.
Oh wow!
Yes. So I wanted 7 children, and I wanted to have a big house with kids running up and down in it and stuff. And life happened. And eventually, it came down to us having 3 kids, my husband and I, and I've been enjoying the journey. Since, yeah.
Wow. Well, before we get to that, I want to learn a little bit more about who, you growing up, what were your aspirations, that kind of thing. I knew you grew up in the church, so.
Yes, all right. I grew up at mainly at the Glad Tidings Open Bible Church in Spanish Town. Hi, guys. And I was literally raised in church. Daddy used to say to us, look here, if you're not going to church this morning, everybody going to get beaten. And if we went to church and stayed outside of church, everybody going to get beaten. So we just had to basically go to church. And we always went to church with our neighbor. We got a ride with her to church. And so we grew up in the church. I was very active. I was involved in praise and worship, dance, drama.
I think that's what you're really known for, Everybody who knows Tamicia knows that you're known for drama.
Yes. Woo. But I was very involved in church. And sat on many committees and stuff. So church is basically like a second home to me.
Right.
Somebody would say yes, the second yard. I remember the days when we used to sit at church until 1 o'clock in the mornings.
Oh wow.
Now can you imagine that? And we would walk home together as a group. My father wouldn't be worried at all because he knew that he could trust me, and so we would all walk home together, have our little prayer meetings when we were ready. We had study times that we would stay over at church and just study, and it was just I just thought it was a good childhood for me.
As I listen to you, I'm wondering for children or young people of today if they're having as much fun, because when we think about church, persons will tell you, especially for a young person, it's boring. All you do is just pastor preach all day, but listening to you, it sounds as if church is this fun place.
Simone, for me, church is a lifestyle.
Okay.
Church is not the building that we go to when we're going to pray, or it's for me it's a lifestyle, because we are the church.
Right.
You understand? As individuals, we're expected to host the Spirit of God and allow Him to live through us.
Wow.
And for me, because church was basically, as I said before, it was like my second home. I mean, I enjoyed it to its fullest. I enjoyed learning the word. We had competitions at church. We had arts competition where we would have poetry competitions, dance competitions, choral speaking competitions. We call it talent search. And I found that that drew a lot of young people, and it kept them involved in church.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, young people love to be involved. They love sporting activities. They love dancing. They love to know that they're people are taking interest in them, and they can express themselves. And that is what I found at church. Like that time, I was by the church at the time, I tell you, oh, I long for those days again. Yeah.
Well, so tell us now. So you've grown up, and you're now a career woman, climbing the ladders of the corporate world. You've been married, and of course, a mother. I want to zoom in a little bit on this whole matter of motherhood. Um, I keep hearing persons saying that children doesn't come with a handbook.
Yeah.
And so I have proven for myself how true that is. But how have you found motherhood?
It has had its challenging times, but I wouldn't say it's so challenging that I couldn't figure it out, or I was overwhelmed. For me, I find a lot of it, I find that I enjoy to its fullest. I have some characters at home, and I call them characters because my children, each having a different personality, I could not believe that these three little kids came out of this mama. Yeah.
Yes.
And so for me, it is just, motherhood is just glorious. Yeah. That's the word. Glorious. Yeah.
So I know for you it would have been a little telling at first, starting out. Three children, but all three being preemies. Talk to us about the whole matter of them. I mean, was it something that you were aware of that they would have been premature? I mean, talk to us a little bit.
Let me tell you. I remember when I just got pregnant, and I would imagine every woman when they get pregnant, they're all excited, and this, you and your spouse, you sit down and you look at the little when you go under the ultrasound and you see the pictures and you're excited and you're imagining, wow, 9 months of this and and stuff. For me, and because I can see that I'm a little, my friend would say big boned, but I'm a little fluffy diva, and so my pregnancy really didn't start to show until about 7 months.
Oh wow!
Literally. So where I work, I was literally in uniform up until that time, and nobody believed that I was pregnant. But when I remember one day when I went to a meeting in Kingston, because at the time I used to work out in Old Harbour, I went to a meeting in Kingston. And I just happened to do a visit to the doctor. It was one of the routine checkups, and it was exactly 7 months. And then when I went to the doctor said to me, "You have to go to the hospital now." So I said, "Why?" He said, "I have preeclampsia, right?" And then for me, I was like, "Okay." And he explained because my blood pressure was going up, and I had a lot of protein in my urine.
Oh.
It would have placed the baby in jeopardy, and also myself. So I said, "Okay." Now at 7 months, my first child, I don't know nothing about baby. Seriously. And I really didn't grow with my mommy, And so for me, I'm just thinking to myself, all right, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do with me, And all that. I almost panicked.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, doctor is just over exaggerating. Honestly.
Yeah.
I said, God, if you let me go to the doctor and the doctor tells me to go to hospital, it means you'll take care of me. So I honestly went on the mall. He said, go home and get your bag.
Hold on a moment there. If you're just tuning in, you are watching Uniquely Me with Simone Stewart. And on set today, I have Tamesia James, my childhood friend. She is sharing her story of being a mother, and it wasn't an ordinary start. She started out with the doctor, her first pregnancy, her doctor saying to her at 7 months, you need to head on to the hospital. Now, instead of going home, this woman went on the mall. So, Tamesia, what were you doing on the mall?
like I said, I wasn't prepared for the pregnancy because I thought to myself, everybody dreams of probably going overseas to have a baby and doing the shopping overseas and stuff. So I just thought to myself, I just wait until we got close to the time and go overseas and do all of that. Well, clearly God had different plans, yeah. And so I went on the mall. I got, I didn't have any nightgown. I didn't have any baby clothes, shimmies, receiver, pampers. I had nothing at the time because it's 7 months, and I'm saying, who does anything before probably 8? Going into 9 months. And so I just went. I got a few items. I called my husband. I said, "Look here, doctor says he's going to take the baby tonight. And he's like, "So what you doing on the mall?" I said, "I don't have anything at all." He's like, "Come, you need to come up and come home. You need to hurry up and come so that we can."
So your husband was taking it a little bit more serious than you
Yes,
were.
true. Honestly, he was. We went home and we got this stuff and we went back to the hospital. And the doctor said to him that he's going to see if he can try and give me some kind of medication to strengthen the lungs of the baby. I don't remember what it was. And so he said to my husband, "You can go home," because my husband, he's a wellness instructor and he was just coming straight from work. So the doctor said, "You can go home and fresh up yourself and come back." Simone, my husband left, and when he left, somewhere in the night, the doctor came and took me out of the room and said, "We have to take the baby now."
Oh my God.
Because the anesthesiologist can only do it now. So while my husband wasn't there, and I was a little scared. I was trembling because I was saying, "All right, I don't even know what a C-section entails because he says no, we have to do a C-section. And he has to inject me in my spinal cord." And I'm like, "God, what is this?" Right?
As I listen to you, you're reminding me of my own story. And the whole matter of I made a vow, I'm not going to theater without my husband. And I remember the morning when the doctor came to take the baby. My husband wasn't there. And let me tell you, I was livid. I'm not leaving until he gets here. And so the doctor said, "Really? Hey, you need to go to theater now." But God was good. He got there in time. So tell us what took place. So the baby, is that the baby came before Daddy got there?
Well, they took the baby before Daddy got there. So it's not as if we even had a choice. We took the baby, and I was awake long enough to see that it was a boy at the time, because I've always said to the Lord, "I want a boy baby first." And the Lord was so good, Simone. He honored my request.
That's good.
And I remember even to choose the name for the baby, the Lord, down to the last minute, was when I got the name for my first child. Wow, Ethan. And I said, "God, I thank you." And when my husband was mad when he came, and he said, "Look here, why did doctor do that and I wasn't here?" You know how men are. And he was very upset. And so in any case, they had to rush the baby now to Children's Hospital because the baby's lungs, it wasn't fully developed, and he was having difficulty breathing and all of that. The doctor said there's a chance that the baby might not survive. No.
What did you do?
That is the part that I got very, okay, God, you're not going to take this child into this world. No. My first baby, and say to me, he might not live. I said, "No, God, I know you're better than that."
So let's fast forward a little bit, because all the other two children that came after, you've heard a similar story, right?
Yeah.
And knowing you responded the same way in all three of them.
Yes.
I want you to share with our audience what exactly did you do, because listening worldwide to this show and watching us right now is a woman who has either heard from the doctors that they have to take the baby, has heard about preeclampsia. And by the way, guys, preeclampsia is one of those things you ought not to take lightly. Do not go on the mall.
Yes, don't.
If the doctor says to you, you need to go to the hospital now because of a preeclampsia situation in pregnancy. But let's tell us, what did you do, Tamisa, in all three?
The first thing I did when I heard was I started praying. Now, I don't know anything else but prayer, and being honest. If doctor gives me medication, I pray before I take that medication. And it's not to be wholly righteous or anything at all. It's because over the years, I think I have developed a significant reliance on God. And I know what God can do. I've seen Him do so many things for so many other persons. And I say, God, if you have done this for this person before, I know you can do it for me. And then the next thing I would do in all three situations, I call up my prayer warrior friends. And I always try to surround myself with some people that know how to pray and know how to spend time in the presence of the Lord. Because trust me, when the doctors fail, believe me, prayer works. God will come through. I remember my last. Let me tell you about Ethan first. I remember going to the hospital one day up by the children's hospital, and they said to me that when I went in, they were giving me an update, and they said to me that one of his lungs had collapsed, and they had to bring it up back. When I heard that, everything inside of me melted, because no mother wants to hear, look here, one of your baby's lungs collapsing now. Because in my mind, lungs were made to breathe, and if you can't breathe, you're gonna die. So when I heard that, and because they said it was because of some mucus plug or something like that, and I'm like, God, no. And I remember I started praying, and I remember I started speaking in tongues. Now, because this is my belief, and I stood over the incubator at the time, because they had him in there, and he was on the ventilator, and incidentally, only 2 ventilators were available at the hospital at the time. And it so happened that when my child was born, somebody just came off one, and he got it. And I had to say, God, this must have been you. And I stood over the incubator day in, day out. My husband and I, we did shifts. And I would go and I would pray. I remember writing poems over my first son. Live, Ethan, live. Live for mommy. Live, Ethan, live. Live for daddy. Live so that the SON will shine on you, will rise on you. I spoke into his spirit. Because as far as I'm concerned, when you speak life, life must come. And so I spoke over him. I remember one night I was at home, and when I was at home, I just got up and I just started praying in the midnight hour. I don't know why I was praying. When I went to the hospital the following day, there was a baby that was in the cubicle beside my baby that was no longer there. And I remember the night before when I was praying, I was saying, Lion of the tribe of Judah, I'm going to ask you to roar tonight. I command the spirit of death to back up. I command life. I declare life. And I prayed for my son. I prayed him through. And Simone, there's nothing that can tell me anything else today. I believe that the spirit of death came from a child. And I had to pray him through. I remember another mother, she had her baby there. And she wasn't a Christian at the time. And I remember that she lost her baby, and my heart felt it down to the core. Now remember, this was my baby, but my heart felt it. Because I said, God, what would I do if I lost my child? What would I do? And I remember I stayed before the Lord. Day in, day out. I called my friends, look here, and I have to pray. And I have some very good friends, yours truly, Renee Grandison, very good friends who would stay with me in prayer for the kids. Understand? Boy,
If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Uniquely Me with Simone Stewart. On set with me is my very good friend Tamicia James, and she's sharing the journey of her children being born prematurely. How coincidental it is that all 3 children were actually born premature. When we come back, we will hear how she has been able to maneuver the whole matter of motherhood and raising preemie babies, and what do they look like now, what's happening. So stay tuned.
Who am I really? Choices, choices, choices. In pursuit of a career? OMG, I'm a wife. Help! I am a mother. Oh, I'm in church. When do I get to be a woman that God called me to be? Uniquely Me covers the acrobatic endeavors of every woman to balance the responsibilities of being a mother, a wife, a professional, a church leader, a friend, yet still maintain her identity. I too am a mother, a wife, a trained minister of religion, a banker, an entrepreneur trying to balance the many hats that signifies my role. My book will help motivate and empower every woman who is really unique in her own way. Grab your copy today on Amazon because Uniquely Me is uniquely you.
If you're just tuning in, you are listening to Uniquely Me with Simone Stewart. And we are listening well, I'm hearing from my friend Tamisia James sharing about her preemie babies, what she did when her babies were actually born prematurely, what she did during the process. But let's fast forward now. T. As a matter of fact, because I'm sure some persons want to know what was the weight of each baby.
The first one was 1.96 kilogram. That was a little about a shade over 4 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
The second one was closer to 5 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
But the third one, the girl, she was 2 pounds.
Mm-hmm. And if you're looking, you will see them
Yeah.
on your screen,
Right.
how they are looking now. You would
Yeah.
never believe that those were preemie babies with those kinds
Yeah.
of pounds.
Yeah.
But how do you, so the balance, because I'm sure it wasn't easy. I mean, the children were in the hospital for a while, and when they actually came home, how did you care for them?
Wow. The first thing I can remember off the bat is feeding the baby with a syringe. No, I don't know about anybody else. But imagine having just 2 mils or probably 3 or 4 mils in a syringe to feed a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And this baby is tiny. So you have to cradle that little baby and you have to take your time to feed that baby a little at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember now their digestive system and all that is not all that fully developed
Yeah.
as a normal term baby.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the last one, Anna Victoria. Anna was 2 pounds, and when she came home, she was so tiny. I remembered after I had fed her one night and she started aspirating. So the feeling was coming up through her nose and her mouth. And I panicked. I had to rush her to the hospital and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so things like that for me, that was where the challenge was for me.
Yeah.
When they're so tiny and you have to take your care and prop them up on little pillows, and then you have to feed them with the syringe. You have to ensure that they have burped, and then after they have burped, you can't put them down too quickly, you know, and stuff. So that was a challenging part for me.
Yeah.
But when they started growing and coming into their own, just like they behave just like any normal baby. Right now I cannot manage them.
How do you balance being a mother, a corporate woman, also a woman in church? How do you balance?
The truth is, it takes time.
Yeah.
And you have to invest time and you have to get help. And I'm not going to tell you that I do it all by myself. I have a wonderful husband who basically just fills in, you know, and does what needs to be done. Hats off, Stephen. You know, and we family help. You know, his family is very supportive, and I really appreciate that. And I want to say to even families and mothers, when you can get the help, take it. It takes a lot of pressure off you. Yes, it does. You know, but it has been, what can I say, a truly rewarding journey for me. I really appreciate the assistance. You know, that is the only way I can balance it. By the help that we get from the family and from my husband. Because I'm not going to tell you that sit here and behave as if, oh, I got it all together, because I don't. I don't. No.
You know, in my book, Uniquely Me, I talk about the whole matter of motherhood and corporate woman and the whole works. But there's a chapter in it entitled Help, I'm a Mother. And here's what I wrote. A mother knows how to see purpose in her baby, recognizing that her baby is like a canvas that she helps to write on. A mother feels that stir inside her tummy every time she sees danger lurking around her children.
Yes.
She is one who will commit murder for the sake
Oh
of her
yes.
children.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
We are about to wrap up, but
Yeah.
I want you to look in the camera, Tamisio, and I want you to minister to that woman who, as I said, may have gotten news that she's suffering from preeclampsia, or she has right now she has a premature baby and has no clue what to do. Just take a quick minute and just speak to that woman.
Woman of God, my main thing to you is pray. When the doctors can't help, pray. When your friends can't help, pray. What man cannot do, God can do. I have seen it before, I have experienced it before. I just want to say, be firm in your faith and remember that God will do it again. He has done it before and He will do it again if you just stand firm and remain steadfast. And if you feel that you cannot pray, surround yourself with persons who know how to pray. And I speak life to that child, even now in the name of Jesus. I speak life to that baby. I declare strength to your bones. I declare strength to your marrow. I declare healing in the name of Jesus.
Tamisio, thank you so much. You've been a tower of strength to me. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, Simone.
My pleasure. Well, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Uniquely Me with Simone Stewart. Remember, you can get my book or on Amazon. You can also follow me on Instagram, on YouTube. That's Uniquely Me with Simone Stewart or Simone Stewart. Either one, you can find me on any of the social channels. Of course, if you want to come on my show, you can WhatsApp me on 1-876-856-5769. Remember, uniquely me is uniquely you.